There is a $135 million tiara inside the British royal collection that behaves less like jewelry than a contract. Princess Diana wore it for 15 years. She said it gave her headaches that lasted into the next day. When her marriage ended, the tiara was immediately taken back. No discussion, no sentiment, no exception. Then it disappeared, locked inside Buckingham Palace for 18 years. And when it returned, it did not go to the woman the public expected. It went to the woman the system had been waiting for. Most people look at this tiara and see beauty. What I see is something colder. I see a platinum frame, 19 suspended pearls, and one of the most ruthless institutional logics ever disguised as elegance. Because if you track this tiara carefully, who wore it, who lost it, why it vanished, and why Kate now wears it without visible strain, you are not looking at fashion. You are looking at a selection system. And the real question is not whether Kate is honoring Diana. The real question is this: what did she have to become for the palace to trust her with the same weight that once broke Diana in public? In 1913, Queen Mary commissioned the tiara from Garrard, the crown jeweler, using diamonds and pearls already inside the royal collection. That detail matters. She did not go out and buy new stones. She reallocated existing ones. Even at the moment of creation, this was not romance. It was asset deployment. The design was based on a tiara once owned by her grandmother, Princess Augusta of Hesse, the original Cambridge lover's knot, made in 1818. That earlier piece had already slipped out of royal control. By 1981, it surfaced at Christie's Geneva and was sold to an anonymous buyer. Its current location is still unknown. Queen Mary never got the original back. So she did something more revealing. She rebuilt the idea from memory, inheritance, and controlled resources already under her authority. That is the first pattern. When the institution loses the object, it recreates the function, not the sentiment, the function. The result was extraordinary. 19 diamond arches, each tied with a lover's knot bow, each suspending a teardrop pearl that does not sit still. That movement is part of the power of the piece. Every turn of the head sets all 19 pearls in motion at once. Under banquet lighting, under flash photography, under chandeliers, the tiara does not merely sit on the body, it animates. It was built to be seen from across a room, and it was built in platinum. Estimated weight, roughly 350 to 400 grams, which means that for 4 or 5 straight hours at a state banquet, that frame presses directly onto the skull with no mercy and no redistribution. It is beautiful in the way institutions like to be beautiful, visually flawless, physically expensive. And Queen Mary understood exactly what she was making. She wore the lover's knot through the most unstable years of modern Europe: the First World War, the Russian Revolution, the collapse of empires, dynasties falling in real time. And that is where people usually misread royal jewelry. They think it exists to decorate power. No, at the highest level, it exists to simulate continuity, while history is breaking underneath it. That was the original purpose of this tiara. Not beauty, not femininity, not glamour. Continuity under pressure. Everything that came later, Diana, the recall, the vault, Kate is just that same function, moving through different women. The object changes hands, the job does not. Elizabeth II inherited the tiara in 1953. She wore it occasionally but never made it central to her image. She preferred other pieces, especially for official portraiture. The lover's knot remained important, but not yet essential. That changed in 1981. Diana Spencer married Prince Charles on July 29. The Queen offered her the lover's knot as a wedding gift. Diana refused it for the ceremony. She chose the Spencer tiara instead. That alone tells you something important. Diana was never passive with image. She was never just put into things. Even at the beginning, she was already making visual decisions. 4 months later, at the state opening of Parliament in November 1981, she wore the lover's knot for the first time. And then she kept returning to it. Australia, Washington, Milan, Hong Kong, Canada, year after year, the same arches, the same pearls, the same movement under flashbulbs until Diana and the tiara became visually fused in the public imagination. This is where the story gets sharper, because Diana complained about this tiara repeatedly. Not once. Repeatedly, the frame hurt. The weight sat directly on the skull. The pearls moved constantly against metal. The headaches could last into the next day. And she wore it anyway. That matters more than people admit. Because Diana had alternatives. A woman who chose her own family tiara over the Queen's offering on her wedding day was not lacking alternatives. A woman who later used clothing with surgical precision, the revenge dress, the tailoring, the silhouette control, the deliberate use of glamour as language was not wearing the lover's knot by accident. She kept going back to it because she had calculated something. And I think the calculation was this. The lover's knot was the most visually powerful tiara available to her. Not the gentlest, not the easiest. The most powerful. 19 moving pearls under state lighting create exactly the kind of image royal mythology depends on. The piece photographs like an idea, not an accessory. And by the mid-1980s, Diana understood something with terrifying clarity. When private life is failing, image can become the last functioning instrument of control. The marriage was weakening. The institution was tightening. The emotional ground was moving underneath her. But the tiara held, even when everything else did not. That, I think, is why she kept reaching for it. Not because she had to, because it worked. It made the picture hold. And sometimes, inside a collapsing structure, the picture is the only thing left that still obeys. Then, the marriage ended. In 1996, the divorce was finalized. Diana retained a remarkable amount from the settlement. Her sapphire engagement ring, significant personal assets, financial arrangements of extraordinary scale. The lover's knot did not stay with her. It went back immediately. No ceremony, no emotional language, no graceful transition, because it had never been hers. This is the point where most coverage becomes sentimental, and sentiment is exactly what obscures the mechanism. The lover's knot is crown property, built from crown stones, maintained inside the royal collection, never converted into personal ownership by any woman who wore it. What Diana had was not possession in the ordinary sense, it was conditional access. In legal terms, the cleanest description is bailment. One party holds an asset owned by another under defined conditions. When those conditions end, the asset returns. So, the most precise word for what happened is not gifted, not inherited, not even returned. It was recalled. And that word matters because it removes the illusion. The palace did not take back Diana's tiara in a mood of cruelty or grief or symbolism. The structure simply reverted to form. The relationship ended. The extension terminated. The asset moved home. Elizabeth did not need to be emotional about it. Systems never are. That is the second pattern. Inside this institution, objects are not given. They are extended. And the extension lasts only as long as the institutional relationship remains intact. When the relationship ends, divorce, death, reassignment, political necessity, the object goes back. Not because anyone is heartless, because that is what the architecture was built to do. And then something even colder happened. The tiara disappeared for 18 years. That length of time is so extreme, it stops looking decorative and starts looking strategic. Because during those 18 years, the royal family did not stop using jewelry. New women entered the family. State banquets continued. Diplomatic receptions continued. Jubilees, funerals, official portraits, tours, all of it continued. The Queen made loans constantly, but not this one, not the lover's knot. It stayed in the vault through 1997, 1998, 1999, through the entire 2000s, through the first years of William and Kate's marriage. That is not an accident. That is not forgetfulness. That is not sentimental preservation. That is controlled non-deployment. And the question becomes, why? If the tiara was so important, why not bring it back sooner? If it was merely beautiful, why not reissue it? If it was only about continuity, why leave such a potent object untouched for nearly 2 decades? Because some assets are too charged to reintroduce carelessly. By the time Kate married William in 2011, Elizabeth had already begun moving with visible precision through the collection. The Bahrain pearl earrings appeared early. Queen Mary's diamond bracelet followed. The Japanese pearl choker came out for formal use. Kate was clearly being integrated into the language of royal jewels, but the lover's knot remained where it was. Through 2011, through 2012, through 2013, through 2014. Still nothing. Then, in December 2015, Kate arrived at the diplomatic reception at Buckingham Palace, wearing it for the first time. And the moment was perfectly chosen. Not a coronation, not a state visit, not a once-in-history event. A diplomatic reception, formal enough to matter, visible enough to register, but not so monumental that the reappearance of Diana's tiara would become the entire architecture of the night. That was intelligent, because on a larger occasion, Kate would have been buried inside comparison. The tiara would have swallowed her whole. She would not have entered the room as Kate. She would have entered as the woman wearing Diana's memory. Elizabeth avoided that trap. She did not bring the tiara back when the moment was biggest. She brought it back when the wearer could survive the comparison. That is the third pattern. The vault did not open because enough time had passed. The vault opened because the person was ready. And that brings us to Kate. Since December 2015, Kate has worn the lover's knot more than 10 times. State banquets, diplomatic receptions, moments of maximum ceremonial visibility. Each appearance triggers the same public reflex. Split-screen comparisons with Diana. Each appearance asks the same silent question. Does the tiara still belong to the woman the world remembers most in it, or has it already moved on? Kate's answer has been fascinating. She never fights the comparison. She never performs acknowledgement. She never sentimentalizes the object. She simply wears it, again and again, calmly, cleanly, without visible negotiation. That is not a small thing, because the physical cost did not vanish. The platinum frame still weighs what it weighs. The pearls still move the way they always moved. The same architecture that gave Diana headaches did not somehow become weightless for Kate. So when people say Kate wears it effortlessly, I think that phrase hides the most important reality. Effortlessness is not the absence of effort. At this level, effortlessness is effort that has been fully absorbed before anyone is allowed to see it. And that is the distinction. Diana felt the cost and let the world glimpse it, however slightly, through complaint, through strain, through the visible friction between woman and institution. Kate appears to do the opposite. Whatever the cost is physical, symbolic, psychological, it does not reach her face. That is not nothing. That is training. That is discipline. That is adaptation so complete, it begins to resemble temperament. And from the palace's perspective, that difference is everything. Because institutions like this do not merely value beauty, they value containment. Not just the ability to carry weight. The ability to carry weight without making the institution look heavy. Diana never fully gave them that. Kate does. And that may be the single most important reason the tiara could be reissued to her at all. To be fair, the palace did not give Diana and Kate the same entry conditions. Diana entered at 19. 19. No real preparation. No mature buffer. No decade-long observational runway. No institutional training that matched the scale of what was being asked of her. She was handed spectacle, duty, scrutiny, a failing marriage, and one of the most symbolically loaded tiaras in Europe, and then expected to stabilize the image in real time. And for a decade, unbelievably, she did. The headaches she described should not be read as weakness. They were the only honest signal left in a machine designed to suppress almost every other one. Kate entered at 29. That decade matters. She had already lived through a breakup and reconciliation with William in public. She had years of exposure to the institution before formal entry. By the time she married in 2011, she did not arrive as an improvisation. She arrived as a calibrated decision. And that preparation shows. So when people reduce the contrast to personality, Diana emotional, Kate composed, they flatten the real story. The real story is more structural. One woman was inserted into the machine before the machine knew how to process her. The other was integrated after the machine had learned what failure cost. That does not make Kate less impressive. If anything, it makes her more exact. But it also means this is not a fairy tale contrast between fragility and strength. It is a contrast between two women encountering the same institutional logic at different stages of the institution's own evolution. The palace did not suddenly become humane. It became more competent, and competence, in systems like this, can look an awful lot like kindness from a distance. It is not the same thing. There is one more layer here, and it is the layer I find hardest to ignore. The lover's knot is built from pearls. Inside the older European royal vocabulary, Queen Mary inherited German courts, Russian dynastic symbolism, Victorian mourning culture. Pearls were not neutral. They carried a known association with tears. Not vaguely, not poetically. Specifically, they appear again and again in mourning, jewelry, funeral portraiture, aristocratic grief codes, and ceremonial dress as material symbols of sorrow. So, in 1913, Queen Mary commissioned a tiara centered on a symbol long associated with tears. And then, the 20th century did the rest. Diana wore it for a decade, while suffering privately, then publicly. The image held for as long as it could. When the situation became unsustainable, the institution did not absorb the suffering. It recovered the object. The asset went back into storage. The vault closed. The system waited, and when the tiara came out again, it landed on a woman who had learned, or been taught, never to let the pearls mean what pearls are supposed to mean. That is the part of this story that lingers. Kate has now worn a tiara, built from the old symbol of tears, into rooms full of cameras for 10 straight years, and offered no visible sign of what it costs. Maybe that is strength. Maybe it is professionalism. Maybe it is survival. Maybe it is what institutional success looks like when fully internalized. But whatever name we choose, it is not innocence. By the time a woman can wear this piece correctly, she has already understood something fundamental. The system does not reward the absence of pain. It rewards the invisibility of pain. And once you see that, the split screen between Diana and Kate stops being a story about style. It becomes a story about compliance, adaptation, and control. Diana made the tiara unforgettable. Kate made it usable again. That is the real transfer that has been happening since 2015. Not tribute, not homage, not legacy, reassignment. Diana, gradually, becomes the archive. Kate, gradually, becomes the present operating model. Not because Kate is better, because 10 years of unbroken composure slowly reallocates symbolic ownership from the woman who made the object iconic to the woman who makes the object functional. And in institutions like this, function always wins in the end. So no, I do not think this story is really about whether Kate is honoring Diana. That is the sentimental version, the easy version, the version built for magazine captions and palace-friendly nostalgia. The harder version is this. The British royal family created a $135 million object designed to project continuity under pressure. Diana used it while her private world was collapsing and paid for that image with real physical pain. When her institutional position ended, the tiara was recalled and locked away for 18 years. Then, it was placed on a woman the system believed could carry the same weight without ever letting the public see the cost. That is not romance. That is asset management at dynastic scale. And it may be the most revealing thing about the tiara that the palace did not truly trust it to re-enter public life until it found a wearer capable of doing what Diana never could, not because Diana lacked intelligence or power, but because she still allowed the burden to remain legible. Kate does not. She wears the exact same weight, the same platinum, the same 19 pearls, the same history, the same comparison, and she does not blink, which leaves one final conclusion, colder than anything else in this story. Some weights are not designed to be removed, they are designed to be hidden.